Welcome back, Captains. I'm your host, USS Endeavor. We're going to take a look at the newly buffed Flandre. That's right, the Tier 7 French premium battleship that actually got a little bit of love this update. So we're going to look at the actual buffs themselves real quick. The Flandre received a main battery reload time decrease from 32 to 30.5 seconds. But the biggest difference, in my opinion, would be the secondary battery dispersion was improved by 32.5%, trying to mimic the German battle cruiser line comparative to the Zetend, which is what they said. And those secondaries also increased their fire chance from 5 to 7%. Now, they didn't increase their pen or damage, but having that extra fire chance makes it really spicy. Captains, I have a melee at the helm, which will help increase my battleship speed overall for the battleship, because it really helps with the strength of this ship. And I've got Franz von Hipper and Fuso as my inspirations, which is very familiar, as they're the same inspirations that I use on the German battle cruiser line, just like the Zetend for this tier. Porcupine, Megalomania in the second and third. Master Mechanic, although I miss out on the extra heal because he's not a level 16 yet. Fight Fire in the legendary. First mod slot is the secondary. Second mod slot is the propulsion mod. Third, we have the concealment systems mod. And then in the last, we're building into the secondaries again, making this a full secondary build. Onto the consumables, I have 4 repair parties. Again, I miss out on the 5th because I don't have him level 16 yet, but that will be coming. Enhanced secondary targeting, which will help boost those secondaries for about, a little bit. Engine boost in the last, which really helps increase it by 8% for 3 minutes, which is kind of what the French line is known for. On to the survivability. 71,630 hit points. This thing is got a lot of health with practically a 50% torpedo damage reduction is very good. Onto the artillery, and this is the big improvement. The 380 millimeter 3x3 turrets and guns haven't changed. You got 6 in the front, 3 in the back, but they do reload a lot faster, and a 27.5 because of this build, and the secondaries are really what makes this spicy. 9.6% fire chance on the 100 millimeters, and on the 152s, 14.5%, and it's a very noticeable change. AA defense is pretty strong. All of the French battleships, for the most part that I know of, really enjoy good AA. Onto the maneuverability, it is fast, but its turning circle radius is really poor. It's one of the worst in the game, and the rudder shift time is very slow as well. So plan your turns. Understand that if you have islands that you have to maneuver around, plan them ahead of time, because this thing is so fast. If you're not careful, you'll run smack into them without having a chance to turn. Onto the concealment, because of the concealment system mod, we are able to get it down to 13 kilometers by sea, which is pretty good, and you'll need it at the start of most battles, especially if you're trying to get out on the flanks when you expose your broadside at the beginning. Your armor, it's pretty much coated in 32 millimeters of armor, so this thing can get burned down by fire spammers, so keep that in mind. Pretty healthy superstructure as well. Your citadel is pretty standard, slightly above the waterline, so just don't stay flat broadside in this thing and you should be fine. Alright, Captains, we are on the map Haven. And unfortunately, it's a capture the base mode, which everybody knows is my favorite game mode. Not. Also on my team, if you'll notice, on the AL Chapayev is Juza, who is a very well-known player in the community. He's very good. He's a friend of Jankonomics, who, if you don't know him, he's a well-known streamer. But Juza is a really good player. I'm glad to have him on my team. It's going to make this battle a little bit better. And he's actually on the far side right over there, as you can kind of see. There he is right there. So he's going to hold that side, so I'm going to focus on this side. And my first thought process at the very beginning was to maneuver right in between those islands that I briefly looked at, pop my engine speed boost because I really got to get there as quickly as I can, and hopefully my concealment will hold up long enough so that I don't get spotted here at the beginning, because this is the riskiest part of the battle, right here at the beginning. Because if you get caught right here being spotted, there's not much I can do. I can't really maneuver. Because of the islands, I want to try and get out here, and if I can make this turn and get over here without anybody knowing that I've made it, I get a pretty good advantage. However, this Kansas is pretty much broadside, and I just can't seem to help myself. So I take a shot, and I do get lit, but I knew that they weren't going to be able to hit me. However, I'm spotted still, even though I'm behind the island. So that tells me that a destroyer is somewhere on the left-hand side, kind of mid. So I have to keep that in mind. So now they know that I'm over here, and I know that this part right here is also risky. So I'm looking, and I don't see any guns trained at me too much, except for that Kansas. There, a gear pops up, and he's flat broadside, so I got to take that shot. These shells are not the most accurate, especially when you build solely into secondaries. You're going to sacrifice your main gun accuracy in order to try and accomplish that. Here I get set on fire, and I know that I always preach, or most people preach, you get set on fire as a single fire, never put it out. However, because I was positioned behind this island, I feel confident I'm not going to get respotted again. I felt confident in being able to do that, to eliminate that fire right off the bat so that I'm not taking any more unnecessary fire damage, even though I could heal that back. Here I get a pretty decent hit, only 2 overpens on that Iowa. And now I'm starting to push into this side, and this is where I want to get positioned. However, this is the point in the map where I need to show you something. Map awareness alert, look at the top left corner. That destroyer that got spotted up there was only spotted for about 2 seconds, and now he's gone. Now, the one cool thing about this feature that Wargaming has with the map system is that it will show the last known position. There'll be, it'll be a white and black icon where they last were spotted. But that is the last destroyer that I need to really, really worry about. And if you're not looking at the map, then you probably wouldn't have noticed that. But I saw that very briefly, and again, that destroyer was spotted so briefly. I don't know how he was spotted, but he was. And that tells me that he's pushing around this corner. And if I hadn't been paying attention, I would have probably gotten torpedoed, even though it's an Ostergotland and they don't have the strongest torpedoes. They're very fast, and he's got 8 of them. So that's the reason why I'm just focusing on this corner. I'm being patient. I don't want to push around it. I've got a Richelieu in front of me who has other things that he wants to shoot at. I am located, which more than likely is the Ostergotland, who is trying to come around this corner. And I got to be honest at this point. I thought he would have already shown up. So I'm kind of second guessing myself as far as do I keep maintaining this position or do I push forward? And right as I'm about to change my mind, he pops up. I'm ready for him with HE loaded, take 75% of his health, pop my secondary reload booster. And although these secondary guns are not the most powerful, the 152s that get shot right here are able to take him out. And I detonate him, actually. I don't get the dev strike, but I do get the secondary kill. But for all intents and purposes, that was a dev strike. I took all his health, even though it didn't technically qualify. So now that the destroyer threat is completely gone on the red team, they're all dead. I don't have to worry about them anymore, and now I can kind of focus on this Richelieu. Now, he's within my secondary range, and I can shoot him with my HE because he's bow in. My AP is not going to do much against him. So setting him on fire is a really good option. Trying to stay angled enough to where he's not going to be able to hit me with full penetrations with AP. But I also have to remember those battleships pushed around the corner on my right-hand side. So I'm cognizant of that fact. I know that they're there. And there's also that A gear, which is getting pretty close to me, and he has good torpedoes. if he were to angle as we completely whiff with that salvo, showing that the accuracy is not really the greatest on the Flandre. But we do tank damage really, really well. And that's kind of the role that you take in these types of battleships, especially brawling battleships, which I would put the Flandre kind of in now, even though it doesn't have torpedoes. I think it has good enough secondaries, which are going to be more reliable for setting fires than they are going to be doing for raw damage, because the 100 millimeter shells are not going to pen much of anything at this tier, even when it comes to destroyers. They're just not very good in that respect. The 152s might cause some damage, but I'm more interested in the fires, which is why I used Fuso as my inspiration, as we are setting fires, case in point. But the Richelieu's not going to push ahead, and now that I notice that these battleships are finally pushing around flat broadside to me, I've got to angle against both of them because it is a Kansas and an Iowa, and I need to respect their AP. So I am going to angle backing up, which is a different play for me. But that A gear is also potentially pushing around my front, as you can see on the mini-map. I am a little surrounded. So the Iowa is really low, so I'm going to use my back guns. It's only 3 of them, but he is pretty low, and that trajectory was pretty good, and we wipe him off the board. They're not focusing me. My secondaries are able to just go to work. So I really like this game because it really showed how good the secondaries are, and I'm getting a lot of hits. I'm not getting a lot of damage, but again, it's for fires, not for damage. The A gear decides to back up, and I was concerned that he might be shooting torpedoes, so I got to stop backing up and I got to start moving forward. The Kansas looks like he's now finally starting to focus me a little bit as his guns are right on me, but then he changes his mind, and because he changed his mind, as we get an 11,000 salvo plus a fire against him, I decide to make a very precarious and dangerous turn to expose my broadside to try and get a little bit better of position. And this is the dangerous part of the turn, and could have been devastating to me. But fortunately, he stopped focusing me for a small amount of time, allowing me to make this turn, and I don't get paid for it, or I don't pay the price for it rather. So now the Kansas is really, really low. He does take that shot at me, but now I'm angled. So there I'm going to go ahead and pop my heel to try and get some of this fire damage back that's burning on me. Still aware of the fact that the A gear is potentially pushing around the corner, but I also have a bunch of teammates that are going to start focusing him because he's broadside. So I am just going to focus on the Kansas. And I get a really good hit right into the upper superstructure. And this next part is a little frustrating in that I thought I was going to be able to do a little bit more damage here. I thought he was dead, to be perfectly honest. So there I thought he was set on fire with that set on fire icon, but it was actually the A gear behind me as he actually got taken out. The Kansas is not on fire right now, which, again, I thought was weird. So I took a shot, and I bounced all 6 of my shells, so none of that damage actually gets him, and the one thing that kills him is the fire damage from my secondary. So my main guns couldn't kill him, but my secondary that set a fire did. Oh man, so the main guns are not the most attractive feature on the Flandre, and for a while the secondaries were not even a viable option either when it first came out a long time ago. But over the time that it's been in the game, it's seen a lot of love. And the Flandre, in my opinion, is now a pretty viable ship to use at tier 7. It's got really good secondaries. They're not going to do a lot of damage, but they are going to be really annoying, and they're going to put a lot of pressure. And it's almost it's a tool that you can use to kind of really frustrate somebody to get out of a position. And just like the Germans can, the armor is better on the Flandre, and it has a much better health pool than the Germans. So don't sleep on the Flandre anymore, guys, especially if it's setting fires against you. So I'm really enjoying the ship now. I kind of liked it before. I really like it now as Juza eclipses me on XP. And it wasn't really that high of an XP game. I just thought it was a really fun game to kind of showcase the secondaries and the newly buffed Flandre. So there you go, captains. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, comment below. Fair winds and fair seas, captains. I will catch you in the next video as we take a look at more of these buff ships, and I'll probably take out some of the ones that got nerfed too to see just how if they're not playable anymore. But until then, captains, I will catch you in the next video. You guys have a wonderful, fantastic day. I'll see you later. This is the USS Endeavor signing off.